Hey folks, got another killer Dann Huff solo for you today. This one is from a track called Secret Ambition by Michael W. Smith. This was released on his third studio album in 1988. The track was co-written by Wayne Kirkpatrick and Amy Grant, who Dan also did a bunch of really great records with. I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of Amy's stuff popping up on this channel in the future. Dan himself played on a bunch of Michael's records as well. He played on this one, which is called I2. Also a record called The Big Picture, and a little bit later, a record called Change Your World, which is, in the words of Patrick Bateman, a personal favourite. There's some really killer guitar playing, particularly on that last one, so that's another one I'm sure we will look at more in the future. For me, this particular solo kind of encapsulates everything cool about Dan's playing. There's a great sense of melody running throughout it, it's very emotive, there's a lot of attitude, and there's also just that dash of flash in there to let us know that it's Dann Huff. So, another thing that I'm going to show you now is another great session player interpreting this solo much later on. This is Glenn Pearce, who is another killer session guitar player who doesn't get the credit he deserves. Check this out now. Okay, so how I'm going to approach this is break this solo down into 5 phrases. I'm not going to focus too much on the theory side of it because it's relatively straight ahead, but I will give you enough that you can take these phrases and you can apply them to your own playing. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing to note is that in this part of the song we are really based in the key of E. I think about E as being our umbrella key from where all the chords that we're using have come from. But what Dan's doing for most of this is really outlining each chord as it is happening in the moment. So for the first part of the solo, we get this movement from like a C sharp to a B. I'm just playing these as power chords. And what Dan does within the solo is outline a B major triad. So we start by playing the 11th fret of the G, which is the perfect 5th of B. We grab the 12th fret of the high E, which is functioning as like a perfect 4th. And then we have a little trill. Now in terms of fingers, I'm starting my index finger and I'm using my ring finger to play the 12th fret of the E, so that then I have my middle finger free to do the trill between the 11th and 12th fret on that E string. And we basically just come down this little D shape by going 12th fret of the B, 11th fret of the G, and then back to the 12th fret of the B. So slowly that phrase is like this. 3, 4, 1. Now one thing Dan does to make it Dan is he adds a little dive at the end of the last note. He doesn't necessarily pinch it, I got carried away. So what we see with that phrase is that Dan is really focusing on chord tones. The more chord tones we have within a lead line, the more melodic it's going to be perceived as being. It's probably the simplest way to put it. We don't want to play chord tones for everything all the time because we're not going to have a lot of tension in our solos if we do that. But if we're deliberately setting out to be super melodic, targeting chord tones is a good way to go. Okay, phrase number 2. We start by sliding into the 16th fret of the G string with our index finger. Where you're starting from is not too important, it's just a little bit of momentum. We then are going to grab the 17th followed by the 19th fret of the B string, which I'm using my middle finger and my little finger for. What we're doing here is kind of grabbing another note from the chord, which is the perfect fifth, and then we start to move up the scale to the sixth, and then we have this great bending phrase. And all we're doing here is, it's almost like a wink to that kind of, that wasn't a wink, that was a blink. That's Steve Lukather thing, where we take a full step bend and then another half and then we come back. But Dan does it like a little bit differently, whereas Steve would sometimes do that as like a grab. Dan is bending a full step from the 19th fret. He's then rebending, but a tone and a half, and then rebending again a tone. But on the last one, we are allowing the bend to fully release, and then we're coming down again the same two notes that we used on the way up, the 17th fret of the B and the 16th fret of the G. So slowly we get let's move on to phrase number 3. So phrase number 3 is the tricky one. It's a sort of speed lick, I suppose. So this might take a bit of practice to get up to speed, but it's very much kind of based around the Dann Huff speed picking technique, which I did a video on a little while back. So if you're kind of new here, it may be worth going back and checking out that video as well. On a side note, if you are new here, please consider subscribing. I do a bunch of these types of videos, and I have many more planned. So if you're into Dan Huff, Steve Lukather, Michael Landau, Paul Jackson Jr., Michael Thompson, Jay Graydon, all of those great dudes, there's going to be a lot of kind of teaching content focused around their work. So yeah, I think you'll fit right in if you're enjoying this video. For guys who've been here a while, thank you for watching. Drop me a comment, let me know how you're getting on with this solo. I'm reluctant to say press the like button, but we are slaves to the algorithm, so. Okay, right, let's move on. Okay, so phrase number 3 is where things get a bit more challenging. So we start by bending the 19th fret of the B, a tone, using my third finger to do this. And then we're walking up from the 16th to 17th on the top string. And then we have at the 19th fret of the high E, we play the note unbent, bend it up a tone and then release it. And then we pull off from 17th to 16th. Okay, now this is where the run begins. Okay, so I'm going to go through it kind of one string at a time. First part of this, we are going to basically be doing a downstroke on the 19th fret of the E, an upstroke on the 15th fret of the same string, and then pull off to 14th. This is the kind of the crux of our technique. Okay, down, up, pull off. We're going to do the same thing on the next string. So we have, and then we have a slight position shift. On the G string, we have 18th fret of the G as a downstroke, 16th fret as an upstroke, and then we pull off to the 14th and then slide 1 fret further. So very slowly. Okay, trying to get it nice and even, not trying to kind of accent the pick notes too much. We're kind of trying to make it sound as fluid as possible, okay? Okay, moving on to the D string, we have the 16th fret, 14th, and same picking patterns before, down, up, pull off, okay? Okay, this is where things get like a little bit awkward in terms of fingering. So we should be on our index finger at this point. Generally speaking, you're trying to sort of stick to like 1 finger per fret where you can, like so that your hand is kind of comfortable. You do have to spread out a little bit more on the G string, and then you kind of back to like this 1 finger per fret spread on the D. And then we have to stretch over to the 16th fret of the A. I tend to pick both of these notes, so I go down up on the 16th and 14th. And then we grab the 17th fret of the low E with our little finger. And that kind of finishes this phrase and where the next one takes over. So slowly we have this. Okay, in context with the bend. Take your time with it, try and stay nice and relaxed. It's crazy fast on the record, so just kind of like, you know, give yourself like a few days of just programming it into your muscle memory, and then you can start drilling it with a metronome if you want to. With Dan, I mean, he just kind of goes for it. It kind of sounds like a do it as fast as you can kind of thing. It's not even that the subdivisions are super rigid, it's just kind of go and try and land on the beat with that note on the 16th fret of the E. That's really the key, because if you miss that, you will miss the start of the next phrase. So you just have to kind of like shoehorn that phrase into that little gap as best as you can, and just make sure that you are there on the downbeat. Let's move on to phrase 4. Phrase 4 is blissfully simple compared to what we've already dealt with. So we're starting on the 16th fret of the low E. We're just outlining this little arpeggio basically. So we have essentially like the major third of E, the 5th, and then the root. It's like that kind of second position. Hendrixian kind of cage shaped thing. And then we repeat it in the next octave. But we play it well. It's the key difference. Okay, for that, all I'm doing, I'm really just kind of using my ring and index finger for that first bit. Slide with the ring finger from the 16th up to 18th. Grab the 16th with the index, and then obviously, because of the difference in tuning between the G and the B compared to the other strings, a major third as opposed to a perfect fourth, it means that it moves up one from how we visualize it on this group of strings. So the middle finger actually lands on the 17th fret of the B. And then we finish with another little lovely melody, which is just walking up the scale, 16, 17, 19 on the top string, and then finishing on the 17th fret of the B. Okay, and the 5th and final phrase is like so. For this we're using pre-bends. So you're going to be situated at the 16th fret of the B, and you're going to bend half step, but you're not going to strike the actual string. You're just going to bend half step with your left hand, so that you're trying to match the note that resides at the 17th fret. Note at the 17th, pre-bend, okay? And we're just alternating between that and the unbent version of that note. Okay, Dan kind of really digs in, and there's almost a little bit of that kind of like pinch harmonic thing going on, where you are just kind of like tilting the pick forward to get a little bit of squeal in there. And then he has a very Brian May type slow bend and wide vibrato at the 16th fret of the G. Okay, and that's it. Okay, I'm just going to play through it slowly so you can hear the parts assembled. So. Okay guys, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoy this one. Drop me a comment and let me know how you're getting on with it. Maybe even post a video of you playing it. It'd be awesome to see how you guys are doing. And I will be back next week. Remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this stuff. And I'm going to see you guys next weekend. Have a good one. Bye bye.